This gives us a possible launch date of the week of February 22nd, 2022. So February seems to maybe fit. Okay, enough of him. Let's get to World of Warcraft. Now, I predicted that patch 9.2 is going to launch late February. This will put us at the week of February 22nd, a date which many fans, including myself, have been speculating on, so this theory still fits. For months, I have been predicting patch 9.2 for WoW to launch around February 22nd. I still predict that the week of February 22nd is the most ideal launch date. I'm 100% confident that I'm 50% right. I thought Clout was supposed to mean something. Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, complete with non-stop news, and it's a little exhausting, I gotta admit. But a lot of us were confident about the 9.2 announcement, right? Anyway, thanks for coming, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let's get to the news. 9.2 finally has an official launch date of 2/22/2022. Call me. With the patch comes a new zone and creatures to maim and kill and enslave. We've got upcoming cinematic surprises and not so surprises. There's pets and mounts and delicious transmog like water swords and awesome helmets that only plate wearers can use. Now let's talk dates so we're all on the same page, and I'll add some important details for those of you who care. With the patch release of February 22nd, we're going to have a 1-week preseason to jerk around and ask in general chat where all the double legendaries are. Week 2 marks the start of Season 3, with all the season stuff, like the new Mythic Plus season, with the new seasonal effects and the PvP stuff. There's a Sepulchre of the First Ones raid that almost opens up, with 8 of the 11 bosses available on normal and heroic, so we can expect some gushing over cinematics. Week 3 is when Mythic raiding opens, and the entirety of the raid is available for players. Expect more gushing over cinematics. Raid Finder Wing 1 of 4 will also open up. The Race to World First will of course begin. The 9.2 campaign, which makes new chapters available each week, will make Chapter 5 available, which gives us the recipe needed to make Rank 7 legendaries. During Week 4, completing the next campaign chapter fulfills the account-wide meta achievement to unlock flying in the Zereth Mortis, making this week the earliest that players can start flying in the zone. Fans can expect the Race to World First to end before Week 4 begins, but you never know. Legion Time Walk-In happens to be on the in-game calendar for this week. I doubt that's actually happening, but later that week is the Trial of Style, which extends to Week 5, when the second wing of Raid Finder opens up. We can complete the 7th chapter of the Covenant campaign and be gifted the Legendary Belt, and the Legendary Memory can be bought if you commit to what is now a more chill reputation grind. Expect a very sizable bump in yours and your raid's throughput if they know how to prepare. On Week 6, I'm not entirely sure what might be going on there exactly, but the 29th is the day the Sylvanas novel is scheduled to be released in physical and digital versions. Week 7, Raid Finder Wing 3 opens up. Week 8, the Creation Catalyst is available, suggesting another sizable bump in player power, as players who have eligible gear and enough Cosmic Flux can fill out their tier set bonuses. And on Week 9, Raid Finder Wing 4 opens up, so literally zero content in 9.2. Bummer. This next part is going to involve a lot of speculation and dates, I just want to warn you, but this is about trying to zero in on if WoW's next expansion can launch within 2022. Spoiler alert, probably not, but I'm going to break down how I got to this conclusion. Here's a snapshot of what I call modern World of Warcraft, with the lengths of these expansions broken down by patch from Legion to Shadowlands. It doesn't take math to realize that Shadowlands patches have been really slow in coming compared to Legion and Battle for Azeroth. In a way, Shadowlands is WoW's longest expansion in terms of patches, and yet it has the potential to be the shortest in actual length. I could conclude that the start of Shadowlands, including its delayed launch, was the WoW team's greatest sin, with such a rocky launch that they needed a 9.0.5 patch, when in a more ideal world we would have had 9.1 content towards the end of March 2021. Otherwise, Shadowlands' patch cadence has been longer than average, but at the very least, consistent ever since. Unfortunately, even with the sacrifice of an entire season, thanks to needing the 9.0.5 patch, we're entering the last major patch of Shadowlands later than we did for Legion. But now let's take a look towards the future. We now know that there's going to be a 9.2.5 patch, and I've got to ask myself, is this gonna get in the way of a 2022 launch? What does the WoW team intend? Visually, we have a rough idea of how long the WoW team wants their expansions to last. It wasn't long after the 8.3 launch did the pandemic rattle the team and disrupt production. I'm going to presume that the WoW team would prefer a 2-year expansion cycle similar to Legion and does not want a Band-Aid patch like 9.0.5. If the WoW team does want 10.0 to launch by the end of this year, at the very least it would be a worldwide simultaneous release on December 26, which is a stupid idea, I know, but just keep following along, okay? If it launched then, the pre-patch would need to be somewhere around the week of November 29th, which visually looks like this. This sort of fits, but it's also not realistic. Like, no way would I want the WoW team to be all hands on deck during the holidays because I want to play my video game. That's pretty messed up. This strongly suggests that with a 9.2.5 patch, which I haven't modeled in yet, it looks like a 2023 release would be safer. Is it necessary though? If 9.2.5 only includes the enabling of cross-faction and the team doesn't try to squeeze in anything else that would otherwise push 10.0 out further, we can model in another late October or early November pre-patch and an expansion launch towards the end of November, just like how things went down for Shadowlands. This is more theory than prediction, but if 9.2.5 only needs a 1-month test cycle, it gives the team 30 or so weeks to get the 10.0 pre-patch out the door by mid to late October. The thing is though, if the team pulled that off, it would be kind of a miracle, giving Shadowlands the shortest of the lull of the modern WoW expansions at only 34 weeks, with Legion having a 46-week long season and Battle for Azeroth with a 39-week long season. This right here is an extremely optimistic model. I don't see Shadowlands Season 3 with an expansion lull being shorter than Seasons 1 or 2. Conclusion, blame Christmas. But my actual prediction, pre-patch probably in December. Let folks relax and play video games throughout the holiday. And the expansion launches early January 2023. This, I guess, is a best case scenario for both players and developers. I'm making this guess based on historical data and precedents, a little bit of common sense, and a lot of headcanon. So what do you think though? What's your prediction? Leave a comment, let us know. With news of the upcoming release comes the release candidate build of the patch with some minor changes like, as I mentioned, tweaking the rep reward values from Zereth Mortis content to make your personal progression in the zone feel a little bit less punitive if you decide to skip out on some dailies or rares. Going forward, the only changes that can happen will come in the form of hotfixes, and in more recent years there have been a lot of things that can be hotfixed into the game, from number tuning to vendor items to adding some simple effects. And here's a very copium level example. As of right now, the Creation Catalyst, the feature that turns water into wine or regular season gear into tier pieces, it doesn't transform gear obtained from Zereth Mortis zone content, but it won't be until 10 weeks after the patch before anybody can even use the catalyst. So between now and then, can this change? The thought in my head, well, there's a vendor that I'll never shut up about who sells gear behind a currency farmed in the elite area of Zereth Mortis. Maybe this, and only this, could be the zone-specific gear eligible to be transformed, given the time that it takes to farm up a full set. Some players, notably ones who participate in the big three, raids, dungeons, and PvP stuff, they might be thinking, nah, if players want the good gear, they've got to do the good content. Fair enough, but I'd also ask these folks if they would be interested in tier with an item level that is as low as, it's around between Raid Finder and normal mode difficulty, and they'd probably say, oh nah dude, that's literal trash, I'm a real raider, who cares about that gear, why would I play with, rabble at that level? Which is kind of the point. A recent post from the WoW team indicates that more people are being invited into the WoW Community Council, which is important, which is good. But over the past 2 months or so, we've seen what I think has been a pretty big uptick in developer posts across the board, not just in the council forums, but in the PTR and general forums as well, and I think that's pretty cool, that's great. For every blue post, of course, there's going to be 50 other posts asking why my needs aren't being immediately addressed, but it's worth appreciating the greater amount of communication and the responses to follow-ups. Back to the council though, the few posts that I've seen from people introducing themselves just lately seem to give off this air of maybe maturity and maybe passion that you don't see in places like MMO Champion comments, Wowhead comments, YouTube comments, and all of that. The real test of these new folks and the rest of the council comes when they talk amongst each other though. Behind the veneer of politeness are player preferences and likes and dislikes, and I'll be interested to see their discourse on full display. And in not so good ways, we're kind of seeing it. I'm not going to show imagery because I don't want to distract from the conversation, but I think that there are legitimate concerns over, one, vetting council member candidates with respect to their opinions and how they might offend others, but also I wonder if it's a good idea to give council members these special flares at all, or to let them post from their council profile on regular forums like,
Witness me, forum rabble, the council has entered general discussion.
It's kind of like developer post that risks getting some unnecessary attention, which could lead to harassment. Back to the real point of the council though, helping it thrive means developers have got to try facilitating more specific discussions. Like right now, it's still being treated like a suggestion box, despite the increase in communication. They are doing more responding, which is good, but I'd like to see the WoW team or whoever it is proactively bring up subjects that they would like more input on, like, how important is it to have sexy transmog, or perhaps transmog that is gender specific? Or even deeper, how about breaking those traditional norms of what is gender specific to push more representation? Or how about dyes, man? Maybe we could just start simple with dyes. And now I think we should talk about add-ons, and the users who want to use add-ons without cost because that sticks it to the man. And Overwolf, which is like so evil, and add-on managers like Wowup, which are like so good, and add-on creators who should be fairly compensated. But we want to use add-ons for free. And Overwolf is totally evil because they use ads, and Wowup is great because it doesn't. But add-on creators should be fairly compensated, just not through any action on my part. That was a lot of word salad. Definitely not my best intro, so let's dive into what the heck's going on. Overwolf, the company that runs CurseForge, is on the verge of disabling the ability for third-party add-on managers like Wowup to piggyback on their infrastructure and bandwidth to download these add-ons. As a response, Wowup formed a partnership with Wago, which hosts mainly weak auras but add-ons as well, and is basically trying to position itself to compete directly with the CurseForge application. So what does that mean for users like us? Users of CurseForge, they're not going to be affected. Nothing happens. Just, do your thing. You're pretty much fine for now. Nice and easy. The same goes for people who don't use add-on managers at all and download directly from CurseForge or go directly to the author's GitHub site if they happen to have one. More on that in a bit. Users of other hosting sites like WoW Interface or add-on managers like Wowup, well, things are going to change. Sometime soon, users of Wowup will no longer be able to use the app to access CurseForge to download or update their existing add-ons. With Wowup's partnership with Wago, though, add-on authors can upload their add-ons there, so Wowup users can access it. However, in a recent update, you now have to opt in to use Wago on the Wowup app, and from that, users will have to agree to run advertisements on the Wowup client, which kind of makes the Wowup client's functionality almost identical to the CurseForge client, but of course not really. One of several advantages the Wowup client has is that you can link add-ons directly to wherever add-on creators host their add-ons, like GitHub. So with some effort, you don't have to opt into using Wago and seeing advertisements. CurseForge doesn't do that, although you can subscribe to their client for $3 a month and not see advertisements. In both applications though, ad and subscription revenue go back to creators in a kind of revenue share. Wago is also hosting certain add-ons exclusively and not on CurseForge, notably Weak Auras and LVY. That could ultimately be what chips away at the market share of sorts. It's kind of like the console wars, but add-ons, and it's dumber. A lot of folks, including myself, has shared their takes on this. Many are upset that in the long run, it's just capitalism and competition playing out. It's a battle to become the next and reigning Overwolf. Some users are like, screw it with both these guys. I'm gonna download manually in GitHub and that's that. Screw the ads, right? Some are taking sides, that CurseForge is working just fine and that the ads are no problem, or that Wowup is fighting for the little guy. Some go as far to say that add-on creation is a hobby and it's not a job, and creators shouldn't be paid for a hobby. By the way, welcome to 2022 with YouTube videos and streaming and the Tiki Talkers. My channel right here, by the way, zero talent, zero programming. Oh, and by the way, my Patreon link, it's in the description below, thanks. But you know who we don't hear much from? The actual add-on creators. What do they think of this change, and Overwolf and Wowup, and how do they feel about how they're treated? The developer of Azurpug chimed in saying that presumably, since the switch from Twitch ownership to Overwolf, income is drastically higher. Both because we brought out more add-ons and became more popular, but also older, barely used add-ons that don't get that many updates and have very little users are giving more these days. The creator of Tomcat said, "Nothing against Wago, but please don't ask me to put my add-ons somewhere that lets you get them from Wowup. If you don't understand by now how Wowup has hurt add-on developers, you haven't asked us. Much like Wowup didn't ask us before using our add-ons to build their business." The developer of Total RP writes, "Total RP dev here. We've had donation links for years. All donation combines through the years are barely equal to 6 months of CurseForge ad money." In a separate tweet, she writes, "Third-party downloaders that piggyback on a platform's bandwidth without providing that platform the means to exist are a long-term threat to the very existence of that platform. If CurseForge has to close or sell because everyone uses the client that doesn't show ads, then everyone loses." As an author, CurseForge provides a feature that is not available by just hosting versions on GitHub, such as discoverability or crowdsourced localization. Being able to browse add-ons by category alone is very huge. Losing CurseForge would make it harder for people to find my add-ons. And I'm not done, folks. Peter Yu, who is a developer for Narcissus, writes, "I received 15 points a day on average before Overwolf, and it reached 75 after. And by the way, 1,000 points equates to $50. The number of users stays roughly the same. I doubt creators expect to earn a lot of money by making add-ons, at least not realistic from the add-on website alone. Don't get this wrong, money does put a smile on our faces, but most add-on authors start their projects just to add some features they need, and those things can sometimes be very specific and uncommon, which will never be popular. Neither the devs expect them to be. I believe the devs treat the add-on making process as an experience, exercise, and learning. Also, due to the craving for audiences, we should make our add-ons as accessible as possible, so yeah, you can expect to see more add-ons on other sites. Arguably though, the most prolific person who's been speaking out on this is Mystical OS, the developer of Deadly Boss mods. In a Twitter thread, he wrote that my stance on Wowup is at least they're doing right by Wago now, but only if users opt into ads. But statistics still show that at best only 45% of them do, which means they still just scrape off mods off WoW interface and curse for the time being for the other 55% who do not. And on the Wowhead comment section where this story broke, Mystical OS was much more direct with his responses to others, saying that Wowup framing themselves as a victim all along has worked. Stealing from Curse, stealing from add-on authors, all while making Overwolf sound like the big bad for not wanting to lose money to scrapers using their own site to make their own profit. I wish authors got more support for their work through voluntary donations and support, but the truth of the matter is the quoted author in the article is right. Most users don't see what we do as legitimate. They'll respect a YouTuber or a streamer as a content creator, but a coder who's putting in just as many hours into creating content mods for their gameplay experience? Forget it. This is coming from the one guy who's had the most success getting at least temporary support on Patreon. Ultimately though, it turned out that most of the support was charity and sympathy support for my health issues 3 years back and not for my actual work. If I'm being honest, it stresses me out every single day, but I still continue doing it because I also love my work and I'm passionate about it. Plus, there aren't really enough work from home opportunities that let me care for a parent that needs 24/7 supervision due to physical and cognitive decline. So yes, I need this job. Working on DBM is a job, not a hobby. And none of you here should be surprised that if I were to take a side, I'm a pro creator with an obvious bias. I'll fully disclose this too. I am subscribed to CurseForge. It's $3 a month, it's $36 a year, there's no bundle. Why is there no bundle? Anyway, 70% of that is split between 50 or so add-ons that I normally use and dozens more that I try out every now and then. And that kind of sucks, right? Because, I mean, that's not exactly baller money. But I certainly can't afford to sign up for like 50 different Patreons. Even if it were like 5 creators that I wanted to support, that's still a lot of money. If I'm gonna shill for anyone, it's gonna be for fellow creators. I'm just speaking for me, but that subscription, while it's not substantial, it's obviously something that I can afford. Dealing with some background ads as an alternative, that wouldn't be so bad either. I would be helping to give someone else's money to creators. Based on what I've learned so far, I hate to say it, but Wowup seems kind of scummy at this point. And I do want you to, investigate and come to your own conclusions, but this is my conclusion. It seems kind of weird for them to use these extra legal tactics like scraping add-ons from sites and hosting them, which takes revenue away from creators. I use a lot of add-ons, but according to the Wowup app, only a fraction of the ones that I use are hosted on Wago right now, the rest being on CurseForge or WoW interface. And after looking at the list of sites and companies that Overwolf partners with, and then the list of sites and companies that Wago partners with, I mean, okay, I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what I'm looking at here on this page, but there are over 1,400 different entities here. I even double checked for duplicates and I probably missed some, but wow. So I said that we're seeing classic capitalism. Competition is rearing its head in the form of the Wago Wowup alliance, and Overwolf is finally getting on the defensive while baring its fangs. Fans, meanwhile, are taking sides, and add-on creators are just kind of stuck in the middle. A part of me wouldn't mind if Blizzard themselves stepped in to host add-ons, well, by themselves. Unfortunately, that might come with Blizzard moderation too. So some of your favorite add-ons that happen to use copyrighted assets like pictures and music and sounds and fonts, they may not be able to use those any longer. And like, what about my Bronze Cena add-on? That thing is like freaking dope. I'm going to leave it at that, and for you to try and understand everything that I just talked about today, this feels like a really heavy weekly, and let's end the show. Man, this and every patch cycle feels like such a roller coaster of emotion, right? From features that take forever to fully flesh out, to the rounds of nerfs and buffs, to questions left unanswered like, where's the socket upgrade? I still haven't found it. I haven't looked deeply into the build enough, but oh well, where did they hide it? If it's hiding. Well, 100 stats is just 100 stats, but oh well, that's the sort of thing that might be able to be hotfixed in later on. Whatever the case though, I am glad that you folks made it to the end. The patch is in sight, and now we can start bitching over when the 10.0 announcement is going to drop. I want to give a huge thanks to our fam over on Twitch. You guys are awesome. And to the patrons, I'm super grateful for the generosity this week. A shout out to newcomers and returning folk like Andy and Melissa and Khaled and Cody. Dude, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well, man. Go Dubs, assuming that you're still a fan, and of course you are. And of course to all of you for making it to the end. Whether you ad block or not, I appreciate you, and I hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content if it suits you, of course. But until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy. Meep 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 meep. Don't scroll when I don't want you to. Don't scroll when I don't want you to. Don't scroll. Teleprompter. Don't scroll for me.